Welcome to another episode of Daddy Confessions. I'm your boy John. Another episode in the works right here. Very excited, always excited to have fathers here on the podcast, coming and talking about their experience in fatherhood. Just a reminder, this podcast is mostly a labor of love for me. I enjoy just being able to do this, being able to talk with fathers about their experiences, both new fathers with young kids, older kids, empty nesters, the whole nine. And today I have a father with me, new to the podcast, never been on the podcast before, but I'm very excited. Just met this gentleman a couple of months ago. Can't believe it's already been a couple months. A couple months ago, and so I'm going to let him introduce himself to the people, and then we're going to hop right into it. So OJ, introduce yourself to the people, sir.
John, thank you. Thank you. I really appreciate you having me. And I know we met a couple months ago, but it feels like we've known each other for a long time. And I just
Yeah.
appreciate what you're doing, bringing fathers together to talk a little bit about this journey, this life journey that we're on. And just deep appreciation for your labor of love. It's great. And I think we got to continue to spread the word of the amazing work that you're doing.
Thank you,
But
man.
yeah,
Appreciate that.
by ways of introduction, I'm OJ Marti. And I have been blessed with two boys. One is 4 years old, and the other is two. So, as people say, we are in it. They
You in
are.
it. There you are.
They are spirited
Yeah,
boys,
yeah,
and
yeah.
they're amazing, and they bring so much joy to my life and my wife's life, and the life of our family, and it's just incredible. It's incredibly blessed to be their dad. And by ways of what I do during the day, to make sure that can provide for them and my family, I am actually an educator, similar to you, John. I've been in education for 19 years, about to
There you
start
go.
next week, and I'm currently a lower school director, which in the independent school world basically is the principal of the school. And I work at a K through 12 independent school in Providence, Rhode Island. And it's been an amazing journey. I've been there the last 8 years. And one thing that I will probably share, because I think it's relevant to this podcast and conversation, my oldest started at the school last year.
Yeah.
So I was able to wear multiple hats this past year, not only as the leader of the building, but also as a parent and a dad, and seeing our school through his eyes. So yeah, man, it's been great, and
That's awesome.
I'm excited to learn from parents and dads like you and educators like you that have done that path. Because we
I
always
don't know what I got to
get the
teach you, but but I'm
yeah,
happy to
man.
talk about it for sure.
No,
Yeah.
yeah, man. I appreciate you. I'm looking forward to this time. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, man. Thank you for being here. That is, I first off, thank you. I can't thank you enough for being here. And I stopped myself because I was gonna cut in the middle and say unicorn, but I didn't want to say it until you were done. Because there are not a lot of men of color or men in lower school, so in elementary
Yes.
school. There are not a lot of men of color in elementary school. And there are also not a lot of men of color leading in elementary school, at least not at least not in private school world that I've come across over the years. Now, so not necessarily a unicorn in general, because I'm sure that there are plenty of men of color leading elementary schools, but it's not always seen in independent schools as much. So thank you for the work that you're doing
Thank you.
in independent schools, the heavy lift that you have as a male of color working in independent schools. And so if nobody else thanks you, I thank you. I appreciate it. Uh,
Listen, John, I appreciate that. I think it is one of those things when I'm in professional settings, specifically in lower school. I'm very one of the few males, and then very definitely, very very limited when it comes to men of color in that space.
yeah,
So thank you for acknowledging that.
yeah, man. and so also, having your kids in the school is a very interesting. I know you only one child currently in the school, but having your son in the school is a very interesting kind of experience. I'm
Yes.
sure last year was very interesting for you, and now going into year two, right, of his
Yes.
being at the school.
Yes.
And I definitely want to talk about that. But before we get to that,
Yes.
uh, the question that I ask every kind of father at the top of this, especially with young kids, is are there when have you and your wife talked about any more kids?
Nah. That's a I laugh because you know, my wife is one of two, and she's got a really great relationship with her mom and a wonderful relationship with her sister, and it's all girls on her side. So I think in her mind, she just envisioned birthing a little girl, and when
Mm,
we had the two boys, I don't want to tell the whole story, but for our second, we found out what we were having for the first, but the second we wanted to be surprised,
oof.
and
Okay. You
when
better than me. You better than me.
when our second son was born, of course, all the love, and he's amazing. But I think in her mind, she just envisioned her having a little girl. But
Little girl.
no, I feel like we are 95 to 99% that our family is complete, and I was there before she was, and I feel like in the last 3 to 4 months, she's been saying more things of that nature, that respect. So I feel like I think the like they say, I'm Dominican, they say la fábrica está cerrada, the fabric, the factory is closed. So I
And there
think
you go.
I think it's a wrap for us and having more children.
My wife told me, she said 2 and 3. That's it.
That's
No
it.
more. You're right.
Yeah,
The
man.
factory is closed. Yeah.
Because you never know
Two
what
and
can
three.
happen. You never know what can happen.
Yeah.
You end up with twins
Bro,
and bigger
my wife
house.
got twins. My wife got twins that run in her family. And I was like, I can't do it. That was what I had hoped for the first with my first
Hmm.
son. No twins. Second one, cross my fingers, no twins. But I wanted a daughter. My wife wanted another son. She didn't want to have daughters. So we got two boys. I love my boys. Actually, I didn't particularly care whether we had another boy or a girl. Um, I just needed to know, because if I needed to buy girl clothes, I needed to know. I didn't want to, throw out all the boy clothes and then find out we was
Right.
having another boy. So that, that's where I was on that piece of it. But yeah, so that was, I always have to ask that question, trying to figure out, whether that was a conversation that you guys had leading up, or a conversation after, something people want to have, that some people are like, yeah, let's just keep having kids. And I'm like, once you get to the third one, you out your mind. Like,
Right. Right.
three is too much for me. So,
Right. And I
uh,
was one of three, and I loved it.
okay.
I'm the middle of three, and we had a really, really great childhood, but I think it's different now
Yeah,
than it
yeah,
was
yeah.
even when we were growing up. So,
Well,
yeah.
you just wait, OJ, man. You ain't even got to the sports yet. Your kids ain't going in different directions to different sports. We
Well,
made
we had a little t-ball action this year,
Man, that don't count. T-ball ain't even a sport. That,
We had a little t-ball action.
you know what? Can I just say? So we did T-ball thing, and it was brutal. I know you like baseball. I know you a
I do.
baseball fan.
Yes,
I know
sir.
you love it. But come on, man. You can't tell me that watching these little kids stand in line waiting to hit the ball is fun to watch.
Listen, at T-ball, it's all about getting to love the game. The one
Yeah.
goal we wanted was them to throw overhand.
Okay.
It's
Okay.
you point with your left. Most of them are right-handed. Point with your left, step, throw. That was the
Okay.
goal. That
Okay.
was it. And then teaching them a little bit about running the bases and then making some contact and having some fun. Like it really was the goal. And because it's important to me and I love baseball. I was like, I got to coach. So I was coaching, but I was clear. I said I need to be the assistant, maybe even the assistant to the assistant coach. that was what I wanted to do, but they ended up roping you in, and I ended up being part of the big coaching staff, and it was fun.
Yeah,
My oldest had a lot of fun, and
that's
when they
good.
get to hit the
That's good,
home
man.
run, they love that because we
Yeah,
take turns of
that's
being the
hey,
last person and then run around the bases, and it's
that's
great.
good. I'm glad they enjoyed it. My speaking of coaching, my wife tried to talk me into. For first off, I want to. We'll talk about this piece a little bit more in a minute. I'll just tell a quick story. So I used to coach wrestling back in when I worked in boarding school. I was never a wrestler. I learned on the fly as a wrestling coach. Really enjoyed that. My kids did wrestling for a little while. I thought about coaching. I couldn't fit it into my schedule as a assistant head of school, right? Like it was crazy. I wasn't always going to be able to be there to take them to practice. I knew that was going to be problematic. I was always there for the games on the weekend, but I was never able to always be there for practices. So I knew that was going to be a problem. This fall, my wife was like, "We're looking for a coach for our son's soccer team." She was like, "I know he would love to have you as a coach." I was like, "You know what? He might, but I don't know anything about soccer." And she was like, "But you yell out and you seem to know what's going on." I was like, "I know, but I don't." so,
Just because
so
you can command a group of kids doesn't mean you can coach.
right. That does not, those two things don't always go together. Like, if the kids are getting better as they go along, they need somebody who knows their stuff. Now, we were talking about 4-year-old him, playing soccer. I can tell them how to kick the ball and not kick each other. I could tell them how to kick towards the net of the other team. But now they need to learn formations. They need to
Hmm.
learn play. Yeah, I can't do that. That's not me. So anyway, so I applaud you for being a coach for your kids. I think that's an amazing thing. And I wish you good luck for the years to come of coaching your kids in baseball because it ain't
We'll
over.
see how long it goes. We'll see how long it
No, it's
goes.
going. You ain't gonna get out of it, sir. It's started. You done started it now. They're gonna call you every year to come out
Yeah,
and coach. You're gonna be out there. You gonna
we'll see. We'll see.
and the first time. Not saying that your son won't be, in the starting lineup, but the first time you had to tell your son that he ain't in the starting lineup. Whew, it's gonna,
I can't imagine what the car ride will be like.
it's gonna be a tough call. It's gonna be. But those kind of things. I always think that's fun to be able to do be there and be a part of that, and that's amazing that you're able to do it. With that said, I two boys now, and another thing that I like to ask a lot of dads: would you say that you are the disciplinarian as a
Mm.
parent, or is your wife the disciplinarian as a parent?
Ooh, that's a great question, John. I think it's I think it's equally the two of us,
Okay.
but you know, I was reflecting on like who do I look to, and I'll ask you this when maybe I reflect a little bit. Like who do I look to as role models of parenting,
Mm,
right? And role models of being a father. And obviously I have, deep love and respect for my dad, who I think did an incredible job. Quick wave story, quick background. I was born in Dominican Republic. I came to this country when I was 5. My dad came to this country when he was probably my age and restarted his entire life. He was an accountant by trade, and then he ended up jumping into being an educator. He was a Spanish teacher in my hometown for about 19 years and retired and loved it. But I think there is just a different way of parenting that has changed through the generations, and there's lots of values that I got from both my parents. But in terms of discipline, I think that I it's just shifting a little bit,
mhm,
and let's just
mhm.
keep it real. I keep it 100. I think growing up in a household like that, like the spankings were part of what was just happened.
For sure.
If you stepped out of line, that
You got a
happened.
spanking. Yeah.
You got a spanking, and that's not the way that we've approached our boys. So I think we try to talk, reason, but there also is a line. If you cross, you don't want to see that side of dad. And I think when I do have to be that disciplinarian, raise my voice a little bit, set clear boundaries, I think my boys can see that playful, smiley, great side kind of shift. They listen. So I think between me and my wife, we're both equally disciplinarians. But I also look to my peer sets, my college friends, my friends that I had teaching in Philly. We always chop it up about, how are you raising your kids? How are you dealing with discipline? How are you dealing with disappointment? And I feel like in reflection, I'm looking a lot sideways, right, to my peer set on how they are raising their kids. I think once they get into kindergarten through fourth, like that's my wheelhouse. Like I know that
Yeah,
well, but these
yeah,
early years, it's still learning, and it's different when it's your own kid too.
yeah, yeah.
That's the other piece. So I'd love to maybe
Right.
even throw that back to you, like, from a disciplinarian standpoint, is it you, is it your wife, and who are you looking to for role models of fatherhood and
Yeah,
and being a parent?
that's a good question, man. And the people who've listened to this podcast way back, they heard, you know, all of my stories about the reality of my upbringing. My upbringing was I grew up with my mother. No, my father was not in the picture. My stepfather uh, came in early in my life when I was about 3 years old, and then he died when I was 8. And he left most of the discipline to my mother. So my mother had to be the disciplinarian. It was, my sister is 5 years younger than I am, so she was born around the time right when my stepfather came into my life, right? So I'm three. 2 years later, my younger sister is born, and he was a huge guy. Like I think he might have been like 6'3", 6'4", or I could have been mistaken because I was a little kid. I don't know, but but what I do remember is that he was a big guy. He never he never did the disciplining. My mother always did, and so what I learned about discipline was really it was a lot of spankings. It was there was some anger involved in it, and so my understanding of that was like you were trying to teach them a lesson
Hmm.
with the respect of understanding that you wanted them to be safe. And that's what I took from it. I took from it my mother, when I was disciplined, it was because I had done something that was unsafe, right?
Hmm.
Or something that was, so for instance, I remember when I skipped school one time. We ain't had no we ain't had
Mm,
no idea what we was doing. In elementary school,
right.
skipping school, we just hanging out in the woods all day, like, and then we lied about it. So no,
Mm,
so like low integrity, unsafe, and so like in my mind, the reason why and the way it was explained to me was I got a spanking because I was being unsafe. I lied about it, so I didn't even own up to it. But other people in the neighborhood saw me roaming around the neighborhood, and they had already told her. And here I am. She asked me, did I go to school that day? I'm like, yeah, I went. I was, we had a good day. Lunch was good. I had stopped kids after school, asking what lunch was, thinking in my mind I had it all planned out, knew what my lie was going to be. And but those moments were moments where, as I got older, I realized that that was all she knew in terms of her way of disciplining me as a young kid. So I probably internalized a lot of that. Started that off with my son, my oldest son, in a way that was unfair to him in some
mm,
ways as
mm,
a little kid, right? And quickly shifted from that. My wife and I had a lot of conversations about it. I had to do some soul seeking in that
mhm,
realm as well, right? Because as I moved from working only in high schools to working with younger kids, I realized that, so my son was born when I worked in my first school that had an elementary school.
oh, okay.
Um, so that was my first experience with kids who were in elementary school, the the 3-year-olds, the 4-year-olds, and I knew that like there was something different about what I needed to do with him than what was already in my mind to start because of how I grew up. And so yeah, so that was that was the long way of saying that I'm the disciplinarian in our house. My wife will tell you that she is as well. I say she let the kids get away with murder. But I would say that my level of discipline, the things that I have done in that realm has evolved over time as well.
Yeah.
My oldest son got spankings early
Mm.
on.
Mm-hmm.
My younger one never experienced it.
Mm.
And um we have, I mean, I again moved away from it, and now he's 11.
Right.
So, and I might punch him in his face if I have to, but punch him in his chest, not his face, his chest if I have to. You know what I'm saying? He getting tall. He like 5'4" now, but it was a learning curve for me. It was very much a learning curve for me because that's the way I grew up.
Yeah.
That's the way I saw other people
Right.
being parented, as well in my neighborhood. That was, what I knew, um, from my childhood, and it never occurred to me that that would not be how I would also rear my kids.
Mm.
So,
Listen,
um,
there's so much there that resonates. I think particularly around disciplining about things that are unsafe, and even reflections. I think one story I'll tell you very quickly. I've never seen my father more angry at me. I was 14 years old, and we've had the talk, right, around how you operate as a young teenage black boy around police. And it was my first one of my first jobs. I was working at um a actually another baseball store, a baseball stadium here in my hometown. I was a concession stand. I was doing cashier for a concession stand. And that night there was fireworks at the stadium. And I lived down the street from the stadium, and I just wanted to get home. And I usually walk from the stadium to walk home. And a police officer was like, "You can't go this way. This is all blocked off because of the fireworks. They're trying to direct traffic out." And I gave him some lip, apparently. And I was hot. And he said, "No, you got to go that way." And I was so mad because it was the end of my shift. He made me walk all the way. And again, I'm 14, all the way around.
mm,
And by the time I got home, I was still hot. And my dad was like, "What's going on?" And I told him what happened. He was so angry at me. He goes, "Don't you ever do that again." And now, as a father, and also as I grew up, I understood this
yeah,
to see how his reaction was. He was so angry at me because he knew what potentially the consequences could have been of me as a young black boy
hmm
talking back to the police.
yep,
And, I got that same talk again later that week when things were a little bit more calm about, you remember when we talked about this? This is life or death. Oh, not
yeah.
to get so serious, but going back
No,
to again the disciplinary and safety, that is one of those moments that you remember as a kid when your parent was so angry at you. He was hot. He was so mad, and I know exactly where he came from. He came from a place of deep love.
yeah, and you know what? I'm very happy to go down this road a little bit because I think that as a father of boys, boys of color, um, that is 100% the concern that I have because I want them to come home every day.
Mm,
You know what I'm saying? I
that's
want
real.
them to be able to, like, so my sons, which I know a lot of people don't do anymore. A lot of they don't let my kids go out and ride their bikes in the neighborhood. Okay, my wife and I sat down the other day and we was like, okay, we live in a pretty safe area. The boys can ride their bikes, a little ways out, and we don't really have to worry about anything in our minds, right? But then there's always the worry, the concern
Mm,
of whether they will be stopped by the police specifically, right? Not this is not, and this is not bashing the police, right? This is
right,
not
right.
anything against. police specifically as much as it is an understanding of like how the world has viewed the black body,
Yes, sir.
especially the black boy. And one of my concerns has always, especially been for my oldest, because he is a big kid. He's 11. He's about 5'3", 5'4". He is very tall, and he always has looked older
Hmm.
than he is. And so I always was concerned about how people saw him and treated him, because I know how old he is. I know how a 5 year old is supposed to behave, a 7 year old is supposed to behave, a 10 year old is supposed to behave. But when you don't look like you're 10, whatever that looks
Right,
like or feels
right,
like to
right.
people, right? Like those are the concerns that I always had for him. Like there's there's no specific way you should live your life, young man, but there are some things
Hmm.
that you need to understand about people who are looking at you from the outside and how they may treat you or talk about you um or interact with you. And I'll be the first to say, like, there was also a moment that existed when he recently cut his hair, and this is important because he had grown his hair out. He had locks,
Yeah.
and I was just like, I mean, some of this, as I talk about this, some of this is like, I hate to, I hate to go down that road because it feels like I'm feeding into some like
Mm.
narrative about little boys of color, little black boys, that I know isn't true, but I also know that we live in the world. And
Right.
in the world there are other people who see those things. So when he grew out his hair, I was concerned, it's like, what is that going to look like to other people, like in terms of like how they're going to treat him. They don't understand why it is not only okay for him to have his hair like that, but how it is, historically relevant for, our people to be able to grow their hair and keep their hair and all those things. And so that was something that I was concerned about. Um, and especially, and now circle it all the way back to connect it to schools, how it would be received and or um, um, how people would interact with him in school.
Right. Right.
And that was because he goes to an independent school. He was
Yeah.
one of only a few. Matter of fact, at the time, he was only black boy in the class. The other young man in the class, his father is black from Jamaica, and his mother is white. And it
Hmm.
was like his experience was not my son's experience, and so I was concerned about that.
Mm.
Right, so
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
thought about that in the context of school, and so the reason why I wanted to circle back to that is because I wanted to talk to you a little bit about how, if anything, you've seen for not just your son in his first year in school, but for other little black kids, boys and girls of color in your school environment.
Mm.
Um, Like, how have you seen that play out? Has there been any like concern? Has there been parents that have come to you with concerns? Has that been something that you and your wife have been concerned about, like, at all?
Yeah. No, I appreciate that question. So I think I'll first talk about my own experience, and then I'll speak to how other families of color at our school have navigated, their children's experience. And I think for our son, he's neurotypical, and I think that was one of those things, that he's a kid that's curious, a kid who's has so much joy about life. He's animated, and we love that. We love that about his personality. And I think for us, we wanted to make sure that we continue to have that in his life, right? We want him to not lose that spirit. That was our main concern with his schooling, is we didn't want anybody to tamp that down. And I know my wife in particular would be in my office and in, meeting with the teachers, if they felt that there was some kind of condition that was in place that was getting him to not be his authentic self. And right now we've been ecstatic. I know my colleagues. We knew that that was going to be the case, but we've just been, more and more happy every single day with his experience there. So I think that's the first thing. And I think for in my role as the head of lower school, when I've had parents come to me, unfortunately, schools are a microcosm of the world, and we all live in places where we're still taking in. I think what Dr. Beverly Tatum said: the smog is in the air. We're breathing that in. Even young kids are internalizing messages about their self worth based on what they see in their shows that they watch, what they hear, all those things. I think about an experience with parents when they come in and they say a child made a comment about my other child's physical difference. And I want to be careful because I don't want to give too many specific examples, but
Right, right, right.
the what I always tell families of color is we will make sure, as long as I'm here, that your child is acknowledged for who they are and seen in who they are. We cannot stop. It would be inauthentic of me to say that we are going to stop those things from happening to your child. But how we respond is the most important. We will be thinking about how we're educating, what kind of books we're reading, what kind of training we're giving our teachers, what kind of reflections we're having as a faculty, um, what kind of learning we're taking from it. So when it does happen, and again in the moment, we can respond. And those are the conversations I have with families when they come to me and say, this was said, or this is how my child came home with this story about, their skin color or their gender, or, whatever identifier that we're trying to make sure that it is seen and valued. So that's how, we handle it at the school. And I think the other thing I will share is because, my son is biracial, he's half white and half black and Latino. It's his experience is also very different. He knows, he's very clear. He talks about it. He goes, "Oh, I have more melanin than mommy, and daddy has more melanin than me." And he learned that obviously through us and through school. But it's again thinking about, I'm curious to learn from you, like just how that experience of being in an administrative role and how teachers and colleagues and other parents interact with you with your child. That's just kind of a new frontier for us as we continue to navigate it. But yeah, I know I jumped around there a couple stories, but
No, no,
that's
no.
how
That
we approach that.
no, and that's great because it's actually in my opinion it's a great through line because everybody, let's just be honest, everybody's experience is going to be very very individualized when they come into a community, right? So it is sometimes it is the um identity of the student, the family, like how they feel, how they grew up, the environments that they've been in, the things that they connect with that are going to be individualized to how they are experiencing in that moment the school environment that they're in, right? So um what that means is, in my opinion, that when I look at specifically my wife, who was not really an independent school person, right? It, her experience is different enough to where some of the things that are said or seen, or some of the things that are, the when you go to a birthday party or things like that, feel very sometimes inauthentic to her. Sometimes, sometimes like really kind of out of whack in terms of like how we have to have a conversation with our kid when we get home, because
Yeah.
that's not how we do things at home, right? Like, or the things that people say are very interesting in a way where we have to have conversations that I never thought that I would have had with my kids, because their experience is just different enough to where it is. I mean, they go to the prime example. They go to birthday parties or to their friend's house in their class, and they live in $1 million homes, million
Mm-hmm.
plus dollar homes.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying?
that's
We
real.
don't we don't live like that, right?
That's real.
Like that's not our reality. They may have, um, you know, big cars. I mean, our cars are big. They're big enough to be
Yep.
able to carry a family of four, but it's not the way some of their friends are living. You know what I'm saying? Food. They're not getting the same kind of food at some of the, you know what I'm saying? And so, and those are just the things that you can see, tangible things,
Right.
right? Like those are the things that are happening on the outside that they're connecting with, that we're connecting with, and being able to see those things and how they then relate at home in the conversations we have to have, right? And we have to have them because the kids are observing them and they want to know. I actually had I had my son at my oldest ask me. He said, you know, so and so said that they just moved out of a $1 million house into a $3 million house. And he's like, Daddy, do we have $1 million? And I was like, well, my accounts aren't set up like that,
Right.
but
The
if
checking of the savings, right?
what I'm saying? But I had to have that. But those are the conversations that we have to have, and those are interesting, like look into um how how both of them are experiencing the school and
Right.
the people that they interact with every day. And honestly, when I was growing up, money. I mean, I never thought about it. You know what I'm saying? My mother did
Right.
what she could. She got me the video game system. Eventually, if I wanted it, I knew what layaway was. I knew, like we got the stuff. You know what I'm saying? I had clothes on my back. Um, those were not things that like were in the forefront of my mind as a child. But now, as an adult with children who go to the school where I work, and I know those parents, I know their home situations, I know their financial situations. In some situations, I know X, Y, and Z about them. Like it's a very interesting environment that I have to navigate as a parent in that class and as an administrator at the school, and
Yeah.
how we engage in conversations around those kids and their families and how they connect or don't connect
Yep.
with my kids and my family.
That's so real. The social economics of independent schools. We can have a long conversation about that. And I think little kids, little problems, right? My son doesn't notice it yet,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
He said he's made a couple of comments like, "Oh, this person had this at his birthday party," but I don't think has made the connections.
yeah, 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 yeah.
So this is why we need to keep having conversations like this, and you know, connecting as fathers and connecting as parents, because you have a lived experience that I'm sure I can learn from, that other people can learn from, right? So
Great, great.
I appreciate you sharing that, because I know that those conversations will continue to happen, and I'll have some kind of version of it in the next few
Right.
years with my
Oh,
boys.
you will. Oh, you will. And and you'll be like, yeah, so and so has they got a pool and a boat, and
Yeah.
they go X, Y, and Z every year, and yeah, no, we're not doing that, but
Hmm.
but we going
But
here.
here are
You
all
know
the
what I'm saying? Like
amazing things we got, right? And here are the
exactly,
things.
exactly.
And I always tell, because my wife and I have talked about this, right? Like I was like, think about the core memories you have of your family. It wasn't around material things, right? It was, I can remember like hanging out on, Noche Buena, which is Christmas Eve at my house, and dancing to merengue and bachata, like in the basement of our house. Like those are the memories I remember. Those are the
Yeah,
things.
yeah,
It
yeah.
wasn't the trips. It wasn't
Right.
the video game system. Like, so, I think that's what we try to remind our kids.
Especially at this young age of your
Right.
kids.
Right.
My youngest son will never remember the Disney cruise that he went on when he was 2 years old, and I regret
They
every
got you to go
moment
to
of taking
Disney
him on
Juice,
a
bro.
Disney cruise.
They
Bro,
got you.
I think back on the money we spent on that cruise that he will never ever remember, and it makes me sad every single time. I
I'm holding off
mean,
on Disney as long as I
you
can.
you should wait. Wait till. You know what I'm saying? What are they, 2 years apart? Like, wait till they
Hmm.
like 10 and 8, 12 and 10, like, and I don't mean go. I personally would never go to the amusement park again, but the Disney cruise, they do it up right. So,
Okay.
but you want the kids to remember it.
Right.
You want them to not just be able to look at pictures and like, oh, I saw this, that, and the other. No, you want them to actually remember going
Right.
down the slide, or you know, hanging out in the kids club and the kids that they met and da, da, da. Like, and my oldest will never remember it. He was 5 years
Hmm.
old. I don't know what he did when he was in the kids club, and he'll never be able to tell me. I just know when I sent him to the kids club, he loved it there.
That's
So
what's
that
up.
was great. And the little one, we carried him around or we sent him to the nursery. We had to pay extra for that. He'll never
Yeah.
remember any of it. Like, they'll
They
never
got you with
remember.
them deals with the, your
Oh
little
man,
kids eat for free or
oh,
whatever, right?
that's garbage. Don't do it. Don't do it. You wasting the amount of like stress that you put on yourself to even go to those places with little kids, only to find out that they won't remember any of it ever. Don't do it. So I could talk about that all day too. The
Right, right.
trips with kids, it's a big deal.
It's,
But
it's yeah, yeah, it's just parenting in a different location, right?
that's
So
right. That's exactly right. That's exactly right. But I know we've been talking a little bit about the school kind of piece, and how as independent school people, we work in independent
hmm.
schools. We have kids who are going to independent schools, like understanding the line that we have to walk as
Mm.
parents in those environments. I don't know what that looks like or what that looked like for you this past year
Yeah.
with your son in preschool. Um, but I would love to hear your perspective on how that kind of started out, how it went, and then I will gladly share with you a quick, brief story afterwards about what I remember feeling in that moment, the first time.
You it's interesting because you do get feedback, and I think again talking to people and people who especially walked in a mile in the shoes, to get their perspective is helpful. But I think also you got to be authentically who you are,
Hmm.
at your core. And I know for me, I got some feedback on like, let the communication happen all with your wife, don't go to any birthday parties, really just keep it professional as much as possible, don't be friends with. And I'm like, okay, maybe that worked for you. And maybe I'll reflect on this in 10 years and say, the younger version of myself maybe shouldn't have been so open, but I can't change who I am. I think like I am a pretty personable guy who loves building relationships and being in community with folks. And um, I kind of went all in on that. And, I was clear with folks like, hey, I'm wearing my parent hat. So I'm engaging with you as a fellow parent in this space. Or now here's my administrator hat. And the lines have been okay right now. They've been pretty
Okay.
bright. They haven't blurred just yet. But I try to be really explicit in what hats I'm wearing. And I think one of the best things is our community at our school, at least at this starting gate that I'm at. They've been incredibly respectful and incredibly open to us as a family. So I've appreciated that, let's see again, talk to me in 6 months, a year, 2 years to see if I'm still saying the same thing. But I think I can't authentically change who I am, and I
Yeah.
wanna be part of those spaces and in being community. So as of right now, I think I've been able to navigate it pretty well. And we're gonna try to we'll keep it that way. And the other thing I'll say, I know you're an assistant head of school. I got incredible support at my school, and I know lots of folks in independent schools sometimes can say that, sometimes can't. So when I have to, take a step back, say, hey, I actually do have a relationship with this family that I can't lead this conversation, I know my assistant head would be happy to step in and say, let me take this one and let me be out in front so you can continue to hold those relationships. So that's another piece that I would that I would say that I have incredible support. My assistant head and my head of school and that front. I would love to hear your story,
You
and
know what?
you probably be like, "Oh, you crazy? You
Yo,
better
no, you know
change
what?
it up, bro."
I'm not gonna say you crazy. But I'm also not gonna say I'm jealous because I'm not. But that's a personal. That's because personally, that's not my personality, right? And that's an important piece. Understanding who you are as an individual and how you then engage with other people is really important. And some people can do it, and they can do it well. They can manage that. They can be in that environment. And actually, let's be honest. I'll be completely honest with you. Preschool, cakewalk. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, I know.
What are the parents most concerned about in preschool? These ain't real concerns yet. And I'm not saying that to take away anything from what you are experiencing right now or what you're going to experience over the next even couple of years. But I think once you get to kindergarten, and is that next year or is that this year?
It's going to be the year after. He's in pre-K.
The year
so he's pre-K.
Once you get to kindergarten, once you get to kindergarten, and people start thinking about it as like real school. Again, I'm not saying pre-K is not real school. I'm sure you guys have a great.
I can hear my early childhood educators right now. It's real school, John.
Yes, yeah, I agree. But I think parents let a lot more go in preschool than they choose to once they hit kindergarten. And so what you end up with is these little side conversations that pop up where people start saying things that you don't want to hear at the birthday party, that you don't want to hear at event X, or you know what I'm saying, whatever. And so the best thing that ever happened to me was when they started doing when my kids got old enough to drop off birthday parties. Cool.
Bet.
I'm out. because there was always somebody at those birthday parties up until that point, kindergarten, first grade, second grade, where they had it was that maybe it's that one parent who doesn't normally come to the parties where the other parent usually comes and they know the etiquette, and maybe it's the father doesn't usually come and he get dragged to this party, and he sees me and he's like, oh, this is my opportunity to say X, and then he says something and I'm just like, okay, all right. I mean, we're talking. If you want to talk about that, give me a call on Monday. Let's talk about it. Whatever, you know. But those are the moments where I have the hardest time. Those are the moments that are hardest to navigate because you don't want to be there as a administrator, as a teacher of the school. You want to be there as a parent. You want to be able to socialize. But you start to realize that the social environment for these parents is also the school environment for their kids.
Right.
Solely for many of them. Like that has become their thing. There's no other social group that they have. And you have to become agile in terms of how you maneuver in and out of those conversations, or how you don't listen in when someone is or like really being very like tactful as to how you engage or don't engage in a conversation around maybe an assignment that the teacher has given, and what it looked like and felt like for the kids that have to work on this assignment, or how silly it was, or it's like the things they start to come up, and it doesn't really happen until they get to a place where they are now parents are now starting to feel like their stake in that environment is strong because that's their environment. That's their whole thing.
Real. Yeah,
so,
that's real.
So that'll be something that you will see.
Yep.
And because I know you already get rumblings of it as the principal, right? You get rumblings of, issues with with teachers or programs or, you
Yes,
know,
yes.
da 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 da. You know, the kids are doing a musical performance and somebody's complaining about the songs that they singing or
Right, right. Or their
the
role.
little the role in the, oh my God forbid the role, bro, like that. I was like, don't let your kid get a good role and they kid don't. Oh man.
Mm,
Like those are conversations that are just going to exist and you have to figure out how to either be there and be comfortable in that or figure out a way to maneuver your way away from it just so you can keep peace. And I mean when I say keep peace, I mean keep your peace,
right.
right? And you
That's
will
real.
have to send your wife and it will be, and she may not like it,
Yeah.
but it's not going to be a both and for y'all going to some of those situations, because the reality of it is either you're going to change the dynamic of what happens for the parent socialization in that group,
Right.
or you're going to hear things that you are almost going to be required to figure out how to handle those when they didn't even get to you on campus.
Right.
Like,
Right. Listen, and I appreciate that so much, and I think I, it's been one of those things. I think I sent a letter at the beginning when I started to the families about my approach, and I think it's going to be something you're going to constantly reflect on, because I to your point, it's just little kids, little problems, bigger kids, bigger problems. So, but like we to circle back, we can only be authentically who we are, and I think that that's one of the things that I'm going to just continue to live out, and it's gotten me to this point, and
you,
I'm gonna try to be me. But
yeah.
it's a
Don't
journey,
please
my
don't
brother. It's a
do
journey.
not take it as a horror story. Do not take it as a horror story. That's not what it is. You know what I'm saying? It's not a horror story.
Right.
It's just a realization. And but with that said, I will say this, and this is something that you um can tell me if you saw a little bit of this, if you're concerned about this at all. Is people I don't want to say playing favorites, but kind of playing
Mm,
favorites to your child. I can't think of a better way to put it right now. Playing
yeah.
favorites to your child.
Yep. Yep.
Is that
You
something
know.
you're concerned about? Is that something that you saw this past year? Do you feel that? Do you feel, put it this way? Let me put it to you like this.
Mm,
Do you feel like the all of the feedback that you received on your son was honest and genuine at all times?
that's an interesting question. I feel like it is because we told the teachers that we want to hear it, good, bad, or the ugly, on how he's doing. And I'm around my building enough to know that my son again is authentically who he is in whatever space, which is what we want, and we want his joy to continue. They almost, I think, some of my teachers have been good, like, yo, just he's good. Cause I always be like, yo, you gotta make sure you come on now. You can't take up too much space. Like I've tried to reel him in a little bit, and like, nah, he's good, he's good. Uh, they're like, keep getting that hug in the hallway because that's gonna stop soon. Like those are some of the things I'm hearing. So
Yeah,
I think
yeah,
for my teachers, yeah, because I have deep relationships with them, I feel like I'm getting the 100% honesty. And then from a parent side, like, no, I don't see any favorites. Like, I got the community at our school is just has been great to our boy and to my wife and to me. So I have again, we should talk in a year.
yeah,
Well, we will be chopping up for a while, but along the way, I will let you know if
yeah.
things have shifted. But right now, it's been great.
Can I just I'll tell you this quickly. I asked that question and I don't ask it from the perspective of thinking that anyone ever gives me purposefully an inauthentic answer about my child. I do think that it is not a issue of my being in a leadership role as much as it is, I believe, in my school specifically, and some other places that I've worked, that faculty children are
Mm,
just in general treated differently.
mm, yeah.
I almost think
That's
they're
not in all. Yeah, it happens at our school too, for sure.
yeah. Yeah, and so I actually think, for better or for worse, that I'm actually harder on my kids because I don't want them to be
Mm,
faculty kids at the school where they feel like they can get away with stuff that the other faculty are allowing them to get away with.
right.
Um, and I say that not saying it because they've actually done things, but I also just feel like it's there for the taking for them as a faculty child along with the other faculty children,
Right. Right.
in
Right.
some situations. I'm like, no, you don't just get to walk out of class and come and see me. No,
Hmm.
no, like we
Go
don't
back.
know. Like, did your teacher tell you it was okay for you to come down here? And matter of fact, why are you coming down here? You don't even need anything. Or
Right.
you
Just come
forgot
and
your
say what's
snack?
up.
Like, you forgot your snack? Starve. Like, they're not actually going to starve, but like, just because I keep snacks in my office, you don't get to come get the special snack in my office. That's supposed to be for after school because you
Right.
don't want the snack that you have in class with everybody else. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like,
Right.
but the teachers would let them do that, and I'm like, no, don't let them do that. Like, stuff like that. Like, that's the
Listen, that's a whole nother conversation about even just the way we were raised versus the way these kids are raised. I feel like kids these days are so hydrated. They got water
yeah,
bottles everywhere. How many water bottles we got with labels?
bro,
I'm like,
bro.
I was at the water fountain down the hall, the cold water fountain. That's what I drank. I didn't have a water bottle in my name. So it's just very different the way even the kids are raised these
You ain't
days.
lying. You ain't lying. You ain't lying. You ain't lying. All right. Well, you know what? We are coming close to time. This has been
It was
great.
fun,
I've
man.
really, really enjoyed this, man. I'm so happy that you were able to join me tonight and chat a little bit. I do have one last question that I like
Yes,
to
sir.
ask every dad on the podcast. Um, so I have a list that I'm going to use. But if there's somebody off this list that you want to bring in, feel free to do it. If you had to pick one fictional father that you would
Mm,
say you are most like, um, who would it be? And my list is that I
that's
work
a great
from
question.
is Fred G. Sanford, Uncle Phil, James Evans, Carl Winslow, Heathcliff Huxtable, Andre Johnson, or
Mm.
Michael Cow.
Oh man, that's an interesting question. Yes, I gotta say, because I love French Prince, man. I gotta go with Uncle Phil.
There you go.
And I
All
think
right.
there's different pieces of Uncle Phil. I love his he was such a disciplinarian, but he also had that unconditional love. That scene when Will's dad leaves him, and he's right there like that. Uh, I gotta go Uncle Phil because that's just such a really really just iconic character and just seared in my memory watching The Fresh Prince. So
Okay. Okay.
that's what I'm gonna go with, Uncle Phil.
Okay. Okay. Uncle Phil. That's usually that's the one I go with
Who that's what
as
you go with?
well, man. That's what I go with as well. Like, I
Okay.
always feel like it's funny because at one point I would have said Heathcliff Huxtable.
Mm-hmm.
That was the TV dad that I kind of grew up with.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But as I've gotten older, and I'm like, no, man, that's just he really was kind of, believe it or not, I think he was a secondary character in his own show.
Mm.
Um, I mean, he was the comic relief in the show, and I don't consider myself to be the comic relief. I mean, the literally, I would say the most impactful moment that I remember from the Cosby Show with him was really around when he was trying to teach Theo about money, and like,
Mm.
other than that, like, it was it was Claire. It was,
Right.
you know what I'm saying? Like, it was the kids. Not to take anything away from, he was definitely comic relief in his own show.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uncle Phil, the man brought Will into his house, treated him like his own son, you
Right.
know, raised him. He never treated him any differently than he treated his own kids. And he made sure to to provide for him at every turn. And that was like a big deal for me.
You know what else I'm going to add? Just a sprinkle, because I'm also a lower school educator. I'm going to add a non-human character. You ready for this? I'm going
Okay.
to add Bandit from Bluey.
Yo,
The
you know what?
Bluey
How
Dad.
did I know you was gonna say that?
You know, because he's an all. You know, I've been watching Bluey because of my kids, right? But like the dad is all in. You know,
He's a good dad.
he's present, he's
Yeah,
playful, he's teaching lessons. So I like that. That's another one. You got to add a little
love it.
sprinkle of
That's a
Bandit.
good one. That's a good one. That's a really really good one. And I remember when that show first came on, and that first year we were trying to find like all the stuff
Yeah,
around and it wasn't even out yet. Like they were not. You couldn't buy the toys yet and everything, but the
right,
show
right.
was going strong in my opinion. And I was like, yeah, this is a great show. Yeah, no, you. That's a great one. I like that one. I like that one as well. Awesome.
Non-human character, but we got
Hey,
just a little sprinkle.
hey, no, that's a good one. That's a real good one. Well, OJ, thank you, man. Thank you again for being here. Thank you for doing this. This has been an amazing time where we were able to just kind of get to talk and vibe a little bit. I know, we were at a conference back in June. Good conversations there, and I hope that you will consider coming back to the podcast. You
For
and I will
sure.
continue to stay in contact and encourage each other across the course of the year as we get back into the
Yes, sir.
into
Get back into the
the
grind.
vibe of the year. Oh man, I'm not ready. I'm not ready. I'm not ready.
Hey, listen,
So
it's coming. You gotta do this. Coming. It's coming. But before we close out, I do though. Just if you give me a moment, I got to give some shout outs because this is
yeah,
important. This fatherhood thing is a journey, and we can't do it on our own. So my parents who stand on the shoulder of giants, they're incredible, incredible people. Then I've got to give a shout out to my sister and my brother. They also are people I lean on a ton when it
awesome.
comes to raising our kids. And then of course, my beautiful wife who is just unconditional support, and just an incredible the rock of our family. So I just want to make sure I give them their flowers
There
because
you go.
they those folks are who are a huge part of who make me who I am. So just
That's
want to give them a
fantastic.
shout out, and all my friends too, because they hold me up and hold me down. So
They
you're
are
part of
your
that
village,
circle, my
man.
boy. You're part of my
That's your
circle.
village. That's right.
That's
That's
it.
right. So and I am happy to be a little part of that as well, man. I hope to continue to watch you grow as an educator, as a father, and I appreciate your words and your perspective as well. So thank you for all that you are doing. As I said before, thank you for continuing to be out there in front and being that that bastion of like just male experience in the especially in the lower school for independent school for little boys and girls of color, because it's hard to find. It's hard to find. So I appreciate you, man. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, John. These have been
Yeah, man.
awesome. Appreciate you.
Yeah.
Thanks for doing this.
And everybody watching or listening to the Daddy Confessions podcast, thank you all for being here. If you have not already, subscribe to the podcast. Subscribe to the podcast. There's episodes, I can't tell you when they're gonna come. We're gonna try to be more consistent, but there's a lot of episodes to watch, backlog of episodes to watch and listen to. So check those out on YouTube, on Spotify, Apple Music, whatever, all that stuff. Check it out. And until next time, thank you for listening to Daddy Confessions. We out.
Peace.
Peace.